This video is sponsored by Simply Safe. There is no safe like Simply Safe. Well, looks like our air cover is missing. Hopefully no water got in the engine. These tires are flat. Let's get some air in those and get this thing out of here. See if these tires will hold air. I don't think that one's taking air. Hey guys, welcome back. So this is a Honda 3813 two-cylinder liquid cooled garden tractor. So this is probably regarded as one of the best engines that has ever been put in a gasoline lawnmower. This thing is a twin-cylinder liquid cooled engine. It has a timing belt very similar to a car engine. So that's basically what it is a miniature car engine. These things have been known to run forever and be very reliable. You can see we got a big old spider right there. You guys see him? He's very camo, but he is right in there. He is a big old guy. Hey buddy. Hey buddy. Let's get some of these webs cleared off here. To watch out for that guy. That's some strong webbing. Oh yeah, that just broke off. A lot of these wires are burnt to a crisp, and we got some melted wires in here as well and up here. So let's go ahead and check some of the basics. Go ahead and take a look at this coolant. Yeah, that looks very good. And you can see this thing has the tiniest little radiator and cooling fan in the front of the lawnmower, just like in a car. We are missing the top cover of the air filter, so hopefully no water got down into the engine. So I picked this thing up. I actually got it for free. One of my customers had it out in their yard. It was actually under like a lean-to type barn. They asked me if I wanted it, and I of course obliged. Before I picked it up, this thing was probably sitting for at least 15 years, the guy said, and it's in actually decent condition until you look closer. You can see somebody spray painted these wheels. There's a big old bend in this thing. You see that's bent pretty good. We'll have to get a new seat for it because this thing is toast. Looks like somebody spray painted a lot of this stuff because this originally was white, I believe. We got a lot of loose wires around here. Who knows what those go to. We have two indicator lights up here. It looks like our headlight switch is kind of loose there. I never got a key with it, but it looks like somebody has been sticking a screwdriver or something in there. So these engines have been known to run really smooth and to be very quiet. I've actually always wanted one of these Honda mowers. They just are made really well. And I believe this is like a 1987 or 80, late 80s lawnmower. Let's go ahead and check the oil on it. See what that looks like. Ooh. Oh man, that oil looks brand new. Wow. They must have changed this oil right before they let it sit. Let's see if we can get some air in this thing now. Well, there he goes. It's definitely got some cracks in it. Well, all right, I'd say that this thing is a little bit cleaner. Definitely got rid of the spiders, hopefully. So before we get that battery connected, it's probably a good idea to get these burnt wires taken care of. That way we don't burn something else down. Probably where that spider was living right there. It might just be this outer jacket that's melted. But I'm gonna pull all these wires off just to be sure. So you can see this wire has melted in all the strands. So I'm going to go ahead and just replace this wire. Here, I lost a lot of video footage fixing a lot of burnt wires and also trying to crank the mower. The engine basically wouldn't do anything. And I found out the wiring and starter were messed up pretty bad. So in order to get that out, you have to basically take off all the body panels or remove the engine in order to replace it. So that's what I'm doing here. Alright, and a big old wasp nest. I actually saw it when I was pressure washing. I saw a ton of wasps that were flying out of this thing. Yeah, that was a live nest. Little eggs in there. So now that we got all the body panels off, you can really appreciate the quality of this machine. So this machine is driven by a shaft drive that goes to a clutch and then to the transmission here. The way these work is it's basically a shift on the fly system, so you can basically move this while you're driving. And the way it works, it has this cylinder right here. When I shift into gear, it's going to push this clutch in, which will disengage this clutch, and it will slowly release this, because like if you let off the clutch too fast, it's going to jerk the mower like you would if you just kind of took your foot off the clutch real fast. So what this cylinder does is it eases that clutch release, and you can kind of see it. So if I'm shifting here, you can see that slowly lets off. Do it again here. See how that kind of slowly lets off there? So that makes it, whenever you shift into gear, it makes the release of the clutch very smooth. So these are made really well. You can see the size of this belt is pretty good. I think it's a 5/8 belt. The only problem that I've really seen out of these mowers, the way the deck is made, it holds water right here and they will kind of rust out over time. But other than that, these are really well made mowers. You can see there's a steel fuel line, just like on your car, that goes up to the engine, and it goes to a rubber hose for the vibration. So now that I got it all taken apart, I'm probably going to go ahead and take this thing back out and give it another cleaning to get all this junk off of it. You can see the sight glass is actually real glass and not plastic like on a lot of mowers. You see this deck will cut up to 4 inches, and it's really easy to move up and down due to this large spring here. You can see when I move it, it has these slots right here that allow for the deck to move up and down. And just by looking at it, it really doesn't look like this machine has many hours on it. The wheels are still, they still have all the tread on them. These gauge wheels are still pretty smooth. And the tires, they're original tires, and they have really good tread on them. So this looks like it really doesn't have that many hours on it. So I can show you how this clutch actually works. So right now if I push, it's locked up. So this clutch is engaged. So when I pull this shift lever to the side, it basically opens the clutch so it will turn. And then it locks it back up when you release it. And you can see it releases it pretty slowly as well. I'm telling you, Honda really thinks of everything. Alright, this thing cleaned up pretty nicely. As I was cleaning, I could see under this fuel tank, and it looks like we have a fuel filter and pump up underneath it. So let's take that out and get it cleaned out. Looks just like the fuel filter you would find on a Yamaha jet ski. Alright, there we go. Yeah, some definitely stinking gas. It smells completely varnished over. Alright, I went ahead and cleaned this old fuel filter up. I do have a new one on order, but I'm going to go ahead and just get this one reinstalled temporarily. Choke all this stuff out of the way. So it definitely would be easier to just undo these motor mounts and then just lift the engine up in order to get to the starter. However, I don't regret taking all this apart because now I can kind of see the condition of everything. You can see the condition of the clutch and get everything cleaned up under here, and that was my main goal. I do like that design, how those come apart together like that. So it looks like I'm going to have to undo the motor mounts. There's a bolt right under here holding this timing cover on that I can't get to without lifting it up a little bit. Those rubber bushings are still in pretty good shape. Alright, there we go. Definitely where our spider's been living, so need to watch out for him. Here you can see our timing belt. So unfortunately, it looks like we have to take this flywheel off in order to get to the bolts on the starter. That is really kind of a crappy design in my opinion. But you can see, if you look closely at that starter, those starter teeth have not moved in years. It almost looks like it might be seized on that shaft because it's pretty rusty. So I'm guessing the starter has been out for a long time. That's probably why it sat. The guy said this thing sat for at least 10, maybe 15 years under that barn. And then I picked it up and it sat here for about 2 years because I just didn't have the time to mess with it. See our spark plugs here. Oh wow, these things are actually loose. Somebody's been in here or something before. I mean, they don't look like new plugs, but they're definitely loose in there. If you look in this one, it almost looks like there's like dirt or something in there. And you can see the top of the valve is open on this cylinder. Maybe some kind of bug was living in there. Whew. Oh. Man, a bunch of crap coming out of that cylinder. Oh. That ain't too good. All kinds of stuff came out of there. I don't know if it was rust or some kind of dirt dauber nest or what. I'd hate all this work to be for nothing and this engine just be trash. Is their flywheel. There was a lot of buildup of grass and stuff in there, so that was probably good to take out anyway. Stuff is kind of trashed on there. Guessing the starter bolts were actually the motor mount bolts as well. Alright, we finally got the starter out. And you can see right there, that terminal is broken off. So the Bendix is kind of rusty, and it looks like it's not even, there it goes, it's kind of turning here. It's not wanting to though. Definitely some crud coming out of it. Go ahead and get this solenoid off. The commutator is really dirty. You can see where it looked like it was kind of arcing just a little bit right there. So it probably was just getting a bad connection. Yeah, those brushes look kind of chewed up right there. See how bad that looks? I'll just kind of get them cleaned up and get this thing cleaned up as well. It's kind of sticking right there. It's not wanting to go all the way. Well, now it does. Definitely need to clean that up a little bit. So I could not get this old starter to work correctly. I think the brushes are just too far gone. So I went ahead and picked up a new Chinesium starter. Let's get that installed. Alright, went ahead and picked up a new seat, or a used seat, but new to me. It's in pretty good shape. So these mowers don't really have a date on them. The only way to really tell what year they are is if you look on the steering wheel, they have some date codes right on there. So if you look right at that top left one, it says 87, and that is the year. And right beside it, it says 12. So 1287. So this is basically like an 88 year model. This steering wheel lined up. Looks good right there. Alright guys, I think we're ready to go ahead and try and turn this thing over. Let's give it a shot. It turns over. However, I think the clutch is stuck on it. It's turning the mower blades, and I have this clutch disengaged, so that clutch up front might be locked up. Let's just do a quick compression test on it. Guess this is cylinder number 1 here. We're at about 120. Let's see what cylinder number 2 looks like. So the main thing is you just really want these cylinders to be kind of consistent. So if this second one is around 120, then that should be all right. All right, that is exactly the same. So I believe that's pretty good. Hey, buddy. Hey, buddy. What you doing, buddy? What you doing? So I'd like to say a few words from today's video sponsor, SimpliSafe. I chose SimpliSafe because they offer a comprehensive security for the whole home. With advanced sensors and cameras, they can detect threats from break-ins to fires, floods, and more. It's so easy to install. It took me less than an hour to install my whole system. And now with Fast Protect monitoring and Live Guard protection, SimpliSafe agents can act within 5 seconds of receiving your alarm. These agents can even see and speak to intruders in real time, stopping them in their tracks. With eyes on the scene, they can confirm the emergency and send critical details to 911 to get a prioritized response. Unlike traditional home security systems, you'll never be locked into a long-term contract, and you can cancel at any time. Their pricing is affordable and transparent, which starts at less than $1 a day, and you can even save 50% on your system. And your first month is free when you sign up for core monitoring. Visit simplisafe.com/homepros to customize yours. There is no safe like SimpliSafe. Now let's get back to the video. So the clutch that I think that is stuck is this one right here, and that has a belt that goes down, which goes down to these pulleys right here, and then goes over to the belt pulleys. So in order to get to this clutch, we are going to have to take this hood off, which by the way is a pretty solid hood. Everything about this machine is built almost like a car. These tie rods are super durable, and the hood here is built basically like a car hood. It has these braces. I mean, it's not like your typical mower hood. This thing is pretty solid. Just noticing the temperature sensor wire is cut and I don't see the wire anywhere. So I just disconnected this plug and there's 3 wires in it. So I followed the wire loom and there's only 2 wires, and that's my headlight wires. Follow it back a little bit more and you can see that it looks like somebody did a repair on these wires. I guess they were cut as well, but there's only 2 in there. Let's keep following this back, see if we can find another wire. And you can see right here where it's actually burnt and melted. So I don't know if that has something to do with it. Here's our wire. I guess that's it. It's a different color than this wire. Well, this is pretty cool. There's a knob down here and that loosens or tightens the belt. That is super easy. So you can see our clutch is locked up here. It's actually spinning the motor, and right now it should be completely free. And the adjustment cable is right here, and you can see there's plenty of slack in it. You can see as I move the lever, it doesn't do anything. So I'm gonna try just kind of prying on this thing a little bit. Maybe that will break it free. I'm wondering if just cutting some grass with it, if that will kind of break it free and loosen it up. So right now, these clutch discs should have a small gap between them. So when I prime this, you can see that gap opens up, and that's how it should stay when it's released. It should be touching when it's engaged. So right now, it's released all the way. I don't know why there's so much tension on it. It should be released. The way it's supposed to work is when it's disengaged, these pads right there and right there are supposed to push on this back plate like that right there. When it does that, it will release the clutch slightly, and for some reason it's not doing that. It's fully disengaged right now, and there's a huge gap right here. Those plates should be touching like that. It's like these ball bearings aren't big enough right here, or there's something missing. Okay, so the way this clutch system works is when you pull on this cable, it rotates this, which has these grooves and ball bearings inside there. So when you pull up on this, the ball bearings ride on this groove section here, and then it presses on the back of this plate, which disengages the clutch. However, I believe I found the problem, and that is these wear pads are basically missing. they're similar to a brake pad material, and they are glued or pressed on these little metal plates right here, and it looks like they are either wore down or missing. And you can see where they've been riding right here. It's really not that much wear at all, so I think the pads just like fell off or got degraded over time and are just missing. Now I could rebuild this pretty easily by just either riveting on some brass pads, but a new clutch is about $120, so I just went ahead and ordered a whole new assembly that will also fix these rubber dampeners in here that are messed up. I usually like trying to fix things, but in this case it will probably be better just to buy a new one. Hey buddy, you watching all the rain? Hey buddy. Alright, so while we're waiting on the new clutch to come in, let's go ahead and get this carburetor taken off and get it cleaned out. Yeah, that bunch of junk coming out of there. So that is exactly what happens to ethanol fuel. And eventually, over time, that will turn into more corrosion and start corroding all these parts. Yeah, there's a lot of that junk down in there. Alright, well that didn't take much cleaning. The thing is actually in pretty good shape for sitting that whole time. I'll make sure this fuel that comes out of here is okay. Alright, so I guess this throttle cable is seized up because it is not moving. That's probably where it got burned right there. I'm gonna try and free it up though. I got this cable luber. Let's see if we can get some PB Blaster down it. Well, unfortunately the cable was just way too rusty and it ended up breaking. I tried my best to get it freed up, but it was just too far gone. Alright, so I don't have a throttle cable, a radiator fan, or any of the clutch installed, but let's see if this thing will actually crank up. gas here. Sounds like the timing is off. Let's just see if we're getting any kind of spark. Yeah, we're getting spark. Check these plugs out. That looks pretty bone dry there. So maybe we're just not getting any fuel. Alright, I'm just going to give it a slight whiff of starting fluid here. No, that's like pushing air out. Something's up with the timing. See how it's pushing it out? That's definitely a timing issue. Well, that's not good. Well, looks like everything has to be taken back apart. So before we go pulling this engine again, let's just see what it looks like under this valve cover. Make sure everything's working right. Alright, so all these valves seem to be fine. They all look like they're adjusted properly as well. Alright, so as you can see, there is a little timing mark right there and a little timing mark right there. So those two are lined up. But if you look right here, there's a timing mark for your camshaft. You're supposed to align that with the T. So that is about 90 degrees out of time. It needs to be right there in order to line up, but that makes this mark all the way down here, so it is definitely out of time. There is a pretty good bit of slack in this belt, so in order to tighten it, we have to move this water pump over. And there we go. Yeah, that thing was way too loose. It shouldn't do that. So now let's go ahead and get our crank pulley lined up, which is right there. And then this one is lined up right there. So that's where it should be. By the way, I don't feel any play in this water pump pulley. It all seems totally fine. Let's get these lined up here. Alright, that should be it. Okay, yeah, the water pump looks good. So it just has this O-ring and you can move this back and forth. Alright, got that all cleaned up. Tighten that up. Alright, so now the timing is set and everything is working like it should. I can see the piston going up and the valves opening and closing at the correct time. So let's get all this put back together and see if it will crank up. get a new throttle cable here. Let's get some coolant in it. Alright guys, we got everything put back together, minus the clutch and the radiator fan. But let's go ahead and see if this thing will start up. Alright guys, here we go. Man, just listen to that thing purr. Thing is so quiet and it can idle down so low. That is amazing. I'm not going to run it too long without the radiator fan on there, but man, this thing runs great. No smoke or anything. One of the smoothest, quietest engines I've ever heard on a lawnmower. Okay, so I did pick up a new clutch assembly. Here's our new clutch disc. Here is our other clutch plate, and as you can see, this was the problem on our old one. You see how these pads are here? Well, it looks like on this old one the pad just kind of fell off or something. That was creating too much space to where it couldn't engage. Let's go ahead and take this clutch pack apart and get the new one installed. Yeah, so there was definitely water getting in here that kind of stuck some of that stuff together. There's one of our plates, and here's our internal friction plate. These pads have completely just broken loose. And I guess they fell off of this one here because these are supposed to be glued on. I mean, in all reality, I probably could clean these up and epoxy these back on and make some brass pads for the other one. But this new clutch assembly wasn't that expensive. It was like, I think $100 or $120 shipped, so I'm fine with that. Definitely a lot of junk in there. Get all these cleaned up. This bearing probably should be replaced, but for right now I'm gonna just run it. I might order one and install later though. Back together. There's spring. container. Plate. Now I'm gonna just set it on the machine, see if I can get it lined up before I tighten it down. Just hold it right there. Okay, so now if you look closely, you can see when I push the lever, it completely disengages the clutch pads. So alright, now that's fixed. Let's get this belt installed. And to tighten it up, I just have to turn this adjuster down here. Alright, that should be good. So it looks like this radiator screen has probably never been cleaned. This thing is stuck in here. There we go. Alright, let's get this missing bolt replaced. Oh man, that oil looks brand new. It's right on the level too. Well, I was gonna change the oil, but I think I'm gonna run it just a little bit like this, and then I'll pick up some Honda oil for it. So that PTO bearing is making a little bit of a growling noise. I did grease it up a little bit, but it needs to be replaced. I did go ahead and get one on order, so I'll go ahead and replace that later. I did make sure that it was actually the PTO bearing and nothing else. I actually took the PTO off. It was definitely the PTO bearing because it didn't make the noise at all without it. the PTO, and whenever I engage it, that bearing stops spinning and then the noise completely goes away. Hi, Quackers. Hey, buddy. You guys want some food? You guys want some food? Oh, look at that big old catfish right there. See that guy? There you go, guys. You guys hungry? Don't bite my finger off. Here's some more. By the way, these are wild ducks, and they will not let anyone else get this close to them besides me and my wife. What are you doing, buddy? You watching your friends? Are you ready to attack them? Come on, Quackers. Come on, buddy. Is that good? You see all the little fishies over there? Alright guys, I guess it's gonna do it for this video. This thing performed absolutely flawlessly. The engine stayed nice and cool. It cut pretty good. I'm sure with some new blades it would cut even better. I was cutting some pretty thick grass, as you can tell by the front radiator screen. That thing is full, so you gotta keep that cleaned out. But other than the clutch bearing, which I did order, everything worked really well on this machine. And for to be a 1987 and still working after all these years, that's really a testament to the quality that Honda has built with these lawnmowers. There is a big brother to this machine, which is the 4514. And that thing's a little bit bigger. It would probably suit me a little bit better than this one. So I think I'm gonna give this away to somebody in need. I believe my brother-in-law and my sister needs a new lawnmower. They just bought a new house. So I think I'm gonna move this over to them and let them use it. So as far as the engine goes, everything worked really well. I don't have any oil leaks or anything like that. I just gotta get a little air filter cover right there and maybe paint these wheels. So I have been getting a lot of comments about some of my previous projects, like the mini excavator that I'm working on, And right now I'm still waiting on the pinion slew gear. It's being made by a company, and hopefully it should be done pretty soon. But until then, I always appreciate you guys hanging out with me and working on this Honda 3813. And I will see you guys in the next video. So y'all take care. Later.